Hello and welcome back to the trash, and in this video we are going to be going over the most recent episode of Tough as Nails, as well as going over my updated player rankings as we head into the final 6. We only have half the contestants left in the individual competition. I consider this about the middle, so we'll just go over my opinions of this episode and my updated player rankings based on how likely I think they are to win. So we'll start off talking about the team competitions, and Dirty Hands only needs one more win, but they did not get that win in this episode. That win went to Savage Crew, and if you know me, you know I'm a Savage Crew supporter at heart. I'm always gonna cheer for Savage Crew no matter who's on there. It's just a part of me ever since season 1, cause Murph. Savage Crew pulled out the win, and the competition was setting up a lighting grid for stage. That was sort of the whole theme of this episode, was sort of on stage, the hard work that goes into it. So they had to set up the lighting, the grid, as the team competition. They had to put all the trusses together, and then they had to put all the lights on there in the correct spots. And you know, we had a lot of fun moments during this. I mean, you had a very close finish between Savage Crew and Dirty Hands on who got their trusses done first. And you had a fun moment with, I guess it's not a fun moment, but it was definitely a moment where KELSY just went off on Elizabeth for really no reason. Even though KELSY thought that Elizabeth put a light in the wrong place, turns out it was in the right place, so crisis averted. And personally, what I find interesting in the history of Tough as Nails is that no team has ever closed out the team competitions that early in the game. You know, in the previous 2 seasons, the team competitions went all the way up until the semifinals, where they were tied, and then they went into the last mission, and that's where the winning team was decided. But this could have been the first time in Tough as Nails history that the winning team was decided before the second to last episode. And it might still happen in the next episode. We'll just have to wait and see if Dirty Hands can pull out another win and finish out the team competition. That would intrigue me as to what they do with the second to last episode. Would they just do another individual competition, like with the final 5, or would they do the final 5 and the final 4 and save the final 3 for the final episode? We'll have to see if that happens, but I hope it doesn't, because Savage Crew is always going to be my team. So now we get into the individual competition, where we had the contestants set up a DJ table. The judge of this I don't remember a lot of the judges from Tough as Nails competitions, but the judge of this competition, his name was DJ Gravity. He was the best. Honestly, if I'm gonna remember any judge from a Tough as Nails competition, it's gonna be DJ Gravity, just because of his no his no that will forever haunt Alfie's dreams is just the no of DJ Gravity. But another thing I really liked in the individual portion, in the individual competition, is the personalized banners that they all had for their DJ names. I really thought a lot of those were clever. You had the DJ Mechanical, Queen Elizabeth. There were a lot of good ones. So Mike won that individual competition, which Mike is just killing it. I don't think he's Scott D. Henry levels of killing it, where it's like it's kind of obvious he's gonna win. No, I don't think Mike's there yet. I do think he has a lot of competition left in the game, but he's pretty much my front runner. I know that's kind of spoiling what my rankings are gonna be, but Mike's kind of my front runner right now, even though he was in 4th place back when I originally made my rankings. Kind of similar to Scott D. Henry. Just saying. And then we had Quincy and Alfie go into overtime. Overtime competition was, they had to hook letters on a feeder that said, "Tough as Nails, time to get to work." And whoever hooked up their letters with the correct spacing the fastest won. And I was kind of cheering for Alfie, because I was just a fan of Alfie. But I was thinking he wasn't going to make it out, and there's a couple reasons for that. They made such a big point of how he forgot to do the correct spacing that I'm sitting there like, this probably means Alfie's not winning, because if he were to be in a position to win, the editors would show him in a little bit of better light. So that's kind of the second clue, because the first clue that I got that Alfie was probably going into overtime was when he got that backstory about his injuries on the job. And I just thought, okay, this is something they usually do before players go into overtime, is they have sort of their backstory on display. This is the issue with a lot of reality shows, not just Tough as Nails, but they usually do this where once a player gets a pretty in-depth backstory, it's gonna mean that they're going into overtime. And unfortunately for Alfie, that meant he was also losing overtime and punching out. I'm sad that Alfie's gone. I really liked Alfie. But let's get into my player rankings now that that's out of the way. Alright, and here we are with my updated player rankings. So first up, we're going to talk about the contestants who have already been eliminated before we get into my new rankings. Alright, Kalimba punched out first, and I was kind of spot on because I put her in last place in my preseason player rankings, and she ended up in last place in the entire season. But yeah, I liked Kalimba. I still think that she's getting a decent amount of content, because there's always that one person after they've been eliminated early on in the individual portion. They get a lot of content in the team portion. Tara got a lot of screen time in the team portion after being eliminated in the individual portion early on in season 1. Like Angel got a lot of screen time in the team portion for season 2 after being eliminated early on from the individual portion. And that's sort of what Kalimba's leaning towards right now. KELSY's also up there in screen time, but we'll get to her. And then we have Hanger, and I really liked Hanger. Hanger had his moments of, like, being a great character, but he also had his moments of just, what are you doing? And I feel like that kind of balance was, like, relatable. Like, I liked Hanger on this season. He's not getting a lot of screen time in the team portion, but I just think that's because there are so many other players that they want to focus on other than Hanger, because Hanger was out of the individual portion relatively early on. Alright, next up we got Sarah, who was eliminated in 10th place. And Sarah is another one who got more screen time than usual this episode. And overall, positive vibes from Sarah. She's always gonna be one of the tougher people to get the job done on Savage Crew. KELSY was another one who's gotten a lot of screen time in the team portion after being eliminated from the individual portion. She did have her blowout with Elizabeth about getting the lights in the wrong places. Because other than that, KELSY didn't really contribute much to the overall entertainment factor of this episode. Christine, we did not see much of at all in this episode. I mean, she was pretty much all over the last few episodes because she was in overtime, but after she got eliminated, she's just kind of there. So I don't really know what to say about Christine currently, but back when she was still in the game, still getting screen time, Christine was pretty decently okay, in my opinion. She was getting the job done, doing what she needed to do. And then we have our most recently eliminated ALFIE. I predicted him to be sort of around where he is right now. I think he was number 5 or 6 or somewhere around there. And I said I think he'd be probably one of my favorites going into this season. And I was right. I did really like ALFIE. ALFIE was one of my favorites, but now he's out. So really, ALFIE. Got nothing really bad to say about Alfie. Alfie's one of, if not my favorite player on this season. Alright, now we get into our top 6, and at number 6 I have Jerome. Jerome is the person I do not think is winning this thing. As far as screen time, he's not really getting much. I'm not really getting much from him, and when he does get screen time, it's not much of his personality showing. It's sort of him just describing what's going on. But I like Jerome's vibe. I just don't think he's going to be the one to pull out the win this season. And I don't really think the ranking for him has ever changed. I've always had him like around number 6, I think. So that's Jerome for you. And at number 5, I have Quincy. And Quincy had the biggest jump in my rankings after the first 2 episodes. Because I originally put him at number 10, which I immediately saw that as a mistake, and fixed that after the first 2 episodes, because he just killed it. He's the new OTOG, sort of taking on what Young was doing back in season 1. If you look back at previous seasons of Tough as Nails, the people who make the top 3 usually aren't the people who go into overtime a lot. Like, season 1, you had Danny, who never went into overtime at all. You had Murph, who went into overtime like once, and then you had Miles, who went in twice, so I guess that's sort of something. But then you get to season 2, and you have 3 people who rarely ever went into overtime, if ever, because Scott D. Henry never went into overtime. Zeus only went into overtime at the very last opportunity. I don't quite remember if Sarah went in, but I don't think she did. Quincy's over here in the Young position, so I don't think he's winning this, because he is going into overtime quite a lot, especially more recently. So I think his days might be numbered. Alright, now we get into my top 4, and this top 4 is the same top 4 that I had when I made my original list. Number 4 is going to be Leah this time, though. And I put Leah a lot higher on my last ranking, but I just don't think Leah's doing, sort of like Jerome. She's not getting much personality screen time. She's getting a lot of screen time describing what's going on, but at the same time, not quite screen time that would make you believe that she is going to win this thing. So that's why I have her at number 4, and we just have not seen much of her. We have seen a lot, though, of the 3 people I'm about to mention, especially in this episode. In at number 3, I have Tak. Tak was number 1 on my original rankings, and I sort of dropped him down because Mike and Elizabeth they've just been all over in terms of getting good, positive, personality showing screen time, dominating competitions, and I just don't think Tak has done enough of dominating competitions. Tak has done pretty well in a lot of competitions, but he's also not done as well. I think he might go into overtime sometime soon. I don't think he's going to make it to the finals without ever going into overtime. I just don't see that happening. He's going to go in at some point, and I don't know if he'll make it out. If he does, maybe he'll make it to the finals. I just don't see him winning. That's why I have him at number 3. But my top 2, I definitely see either one of these 2 winning. And at number 2, I have Elizabeth. And I've kind of already spoiled this, that Mike's going to be my number 1. But I would not write off Elizabeth. Elizabeth is doing a lot in this game. It's really just a lot of these competitions. She has been crushing them. She's been dominating them. Individual competitions, she's done really well on a lot of them. She had the light in the right place when Kelsey thought she didn't. Elizabeth is just really solid at getting the job done in an efficient manner. That's why I think if she does go into overtime, like, she might not even, but if she does ever go into overtime, then she's probably gonna make it out of there, no matter who she's up against. So I think Elizabeth is making it to the finals, and I would not be surprised if she were the Tough as Nails champion, the first female Tough as Nails champion. That'd be nice to see. But at number 1, I have Mike Schaffer. This dude is like Scott D. Henry 2.0, but not as much. All right, Scott Henry, he was always in the edit. He was always getting positive personality showing content. Mike hasn't really got that as much as Scott. I think if he is the winner, then the editing team's trying to hide it a lot more than they did with Scott. But I do think Mike is in one of the most solid positions right now to take home that Tough as Nails championship. So there you go. There's my episode review and updated rankings. Once the season's over, it's probably going to be my next video. I'm probably going to do a season review. But with that, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.